Hello and welcome to the Fat Dad Fishing Show live stream and podcast. My name is Rich Natoli, your regular returning host of the show. And normally we have the lovely and talented Ed Gobo on, but Ed is at a soccer game right now. So he's going to try to jump in as soon as he can. We'll see how that goes. But obviously, family comes first. So hopefully he's enjoying a great game with his kids and a good night with the family. We're going to have a really cool show tonight. I do want to mention in the last podcast live stream, we mentioned we're going to do every other week, and we lied. So we decided that we wanted to just jump right back in and do another one. I was talking with our guest tonight, Bayside Dave, who's a returning guest, multiple time returning guest. And he's in the middle of a derby, a tournament. So wanted to have him come on. And I think a lot of you know that he had injured his ankle earlier this year, and it really put him out of action for quite a long time. So I was actually surprised to see the pictures of the huge bass. You saw it on the thumbnail of this that he had. So he's also going to give us just some updates on what's going on, out there on the water, out there on the beach. I'm sure he's jumped on a boat or two, and if not, I'm sure he will be soon. But yeah, that's what we're going to be doing tonight. So everybody, want to say thank you for jumping in. I know it was a last minute notification, but I guess we're back and we just want to keep going. So we're going to try to start pushing through with the every week. But we'll see how that goes. Again, everything we said last week holds true. We've got a lot going on between Ed and I, but we're going to try to do it. So, just look for the announcements coming out for every week going forward. And next week, I'll tell you right now, we're going to have Captain Scotty Sevens on. He's going to be on with us. We're going to get the whole old crew back together, the band's back together. So I want to say hi to everyone in the chat right now. We've got Luke, Bill, MR Johnson, Rob Widmeyer, White Perch, Joe Billups, Carl Ward. Carl, how you doing? Peter, Tommy Venom. Yeah, Tommy, he said he wasn't going to fish this weekend. I want to see in chat if he actually did fish. He said he was all fished out and too sore, but I don't know if you've ever seen him. I just highly doubt that. Crabbing and fishing. Good to see you, Ben. My brother, Tom, is back. Yes, I did lie to him. He's asking why I lied to him and told him it's going to be every other week. Well, I just explained that. We couldn't do it. We couldn't wait. So with that said, we're going to bring on Bayside Dave right now. Dave, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's nice to be back with the with the gang.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, brother. I really missed these shows that you put on all the time, and glad to have you back. You and Ed, wherever he is.
Yeah, he's out cheering a victory or a loss right now. So hopefully
that's all right.
Hopefully it's a victory. His kids are both, they're into sports. So cool. Family first. And I can say from years and years with both my daughter and my son, soccer gets in the way of everything else. If you got a kid playing soccer, that pretty much takes up all your time. So it wasn't a surprise when he texted me and said, I might be late. And I was like, that means you're definitely going to be late and you might not even be here in time to jump on at all. But it is what it is.
He's a better man for, owning up to his obligations. You got priorities and you got family, and that's always first.
Yes, it's always first. It's always first. I am going to say right now to everybody, with these live streams being Monday night at 8:00, with my job the way it is now, before I had regular work hours, right? So I was basically on call 24/7, but it was very, very rare that my company would ever need anything from me after 6 or 7 o'clock. That is not the case anymore. So it is possible going forward that we will have a live stream scheduled and have to cancel it at the last minute if I have to meet with a client in the evenings. So just a heads up to people. The people that are watching right now and are going to watch the replay and listen to this are pretty dedicated to the Fat Dad team. So I want you guys to all know, please don't hold it against me. It's just the nature of my job. So we'll go from there. But we got to jump in, and we've got to start by talking about this tournament that you're involved in. So why don't you give actually before that, why don't you tell everybody how your broken ankle is right now?
Oh, it's doing a lot better. I'm almost 100%, recovered from it all. I rolled it pretty hard, snapped one of the bones above the ankle joint, and I probably tore some ligaments and some tendons too. So it was a long time coming to get my ass out on the beach there and start start pulling in some fish. But no, thanks for asking. It really put me out for the whole summer. It happened at the beginning of May, and just as some big bass were coming into the shores here of LBI, and then towards the end of May, we had some good bluefish coming in the south inlets and stuff that I usually Tommy and I go out early in the mornings and do some plugging and pull them bad boys in. And I was just sucking
Yeah.
on my couch all
Yeah.
all summer. Missed out all the fluke fishing that I always do, and I'm a big time into fluke fishing off the beach. I'm out there every other morning. I live 2 blocks from the beach. I don't work, and I fish my brains out. So it was tough, man. But here I am.
Yeah, you're one of those guys where I know it must have been killing you, and you probably rushed back. And maybe you took your first steps on the beach with a fishing rod a little bit before you should have.
No, honestly, I didn't. I really took
Okay.
care to make sure I was 100% because I didn't want to take a step back and then have these bass come in on the migration and me being like, why the hell did I get out there? I honestly did not go out too early. I went up to the inlet jetty a couple times just to pick up some tog for the sake of getting out there and feeling it out and everything. But I really didn't risk it. And I took care of, recovering properly and not pushing it. And, I'm glad I did because now I'm out there and it feels good.
Well, that's good. You should have a conversation with George Bucci, who I believe tore his bicep. And next thing you know, he's out there reeling in striped bass.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it.
You have the future to that you're responsible for yourself for. And it's not going to go anywhere, and you're better off just taking your time and getting yourself back in shape before you get out there again, so you can enjoy it as much as hardcore as you can enjoy it, in your full capabilities.
Yeah. You don't want to be, well, especially when you get the colder water and that surf and you're standing in the surf. The last thing you need is your ankle giving way, and which can happen very easily. I think most surf casters, most surf fishermen have been knocked down at one point or another, whether you're in ankle or knee deep water or more. And especially it gets really tough the beaches that you're fishing too.
And we all know that when we're out there, we're relying on our equipment, and your body is part of your equipment. So you're not going to screw up. You're going to keep maintenance on your rods and reels and everything else. So you got to keep maintenance on your body too, brother.
Agreed.
That's the way it is.
That's probably why I suffer so much when I'm trying to surf fish right now.
Yeah, man.
I haven't done a good enough job taking care of my equipment.
No, you gotta hose that off too, so to speak.
I'm starting to hit the gym every day, so hopefully that'll help.
Watch out.
Yeah. So let's talk. Well, I saw the pictures of Tommy from his days past, and I was like, and then you look at other guys like Matusin, who just beasts of guys, and I'm like, well, I could probably stand to get to the gym again. So listen, let's talk about this tournament that you're involved in. You're what, midway into it right now. It's a long tournament. So why don't you give the overview of what that is and everything?
Yeah, we just started week 4. It's a 9-week tournament. It's the 69th annual LBI Surf Fishing Classic that runs every year here on Long Beach Island. It starts on October 7th. It started, and it runs till December 10th. And it's surf fishing only on LBI only. And there's day prizes, weekly prizes. We have 3 segments that we break things up to. So at the end of each segment, we'll have a segment prize for largest fish and all that stuff. And then we have the grand prizes at the end. Plenty of fish to be caught, plenty of fish to be scored. Let me just read it over here. We got striped bass, we got bluefish, kingfish. We added tautog a couple years ago, and red drum is also a possibility if they come in the surf. And all those are scoreable fish. You catch the largest fish of the day for each species, except for tautog. Tautog is segment prizes only, but the other fish, you catch the biggest fish that day. you got a day prize. Sometimes it's $100 or whatever just for the day of the fact that you caught the largest fish. And sometimes you might be the only one that caught a fish that day. And you think, oh, I only have a 28-inch bass here. It only weighs 7 or 8 pounds. It's not worth turning in. I had that happen to me a few years ago where I had a 31-inch bass or something. It was like 8 pounds. It was a skinny damn thing. And I figured that's a good eating fish, man. I'll bring it home. I'll grab some ice. Stop by Surf City Bait, and Sue's like, hey, it's 10 to 6. Do you have a bass? I said, yeah. She said, no one turned one in. I was like, I'm embarrassed to turn this thing in. It's so skinny. She goes, you got $100 day for that sucker. So, yeah, I mean, by all means, if you're going to come to Long Beach Island and do some fishing, or you want to get on this tournament, and there's over $25,000 in prizes to be won. It's all cash, mostly cash prizes.
Yeah.
So, for the $30 that it takes to join the tournament, even if you come down for a weekend or two here and there, and you got a fish, man, you might cash in and walk off the island with $100, brother.
I'm tempted.
Yeah, I mean, $15 for kids, under 18 or is under 17, 17 and under, yeah, for $15. And like I said, there are guys who come here all the time. They're here every day, every week, every weekend, and you're not competing with them. You're just competing with the fact that it's a day prize that you might win.
Right.
And if you get a big enough fish, then you got a segment prize, you got a grand prize. If you want, Rich, I'll just get into this a little bit more.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, because the biggest concern that we had with the committee that I'm now part of is the fact that striped bass, 28 to 31. How the heck are we going to score that? How are we going to keep track of who's got the biggest fish and all that stuff? Which it still is a bit of an issue as far as biggest fish of the tournament is concerned. So we came up with this thing we call the Surf Master Prize, where you can take pictures, catch and release only. You get a big bass in the surf over 31 inches. You have your badge on you. Everybody who signs up gets a numbered badge like this.
Yep.
And keep that on you, or even write that number on a card. Keep that with you. Have your phone with you, and have a good readable tape measure with you. Catch the fish, throw it down in the wet sand. Open up the tape, put your badge there, your badge number. Take a good picture. Revive and release that fish. They won't take too long. You're not going to keep that fish out of water for too long. All the rules about that and safe handling and all that stuff is on the website lbisfc.com. That's Long Beach Island Surf Fishing Club.com. And you look over at the Surf Master Prize. It's all laid out for you as far as what's required about taking the picture and submitting it and possibly winning prizes. At the end of the season, we're going to have a first prize with we're going to have a plaque, rod and reel, plugs, $200 gift card to the Fisherman's Headquarters for the biggest fish. We got a second prize with just as many prizes to be taken home for that. And then all the entrants who enter are going to be in a drawing for another series of prizes, including what do we got here? Rods, reels, lures, gift cards, and everything. So hopefully that entices people to say, hey, I'm not going to enter this derby because I can only enter 31-inch fish up to 31 inches. But no, you can enter some big fish. And we got a couple guys already. We got a 48-inch fish in the league right now. Guys who are going out to the inlet jetty, throwing live eels in the middle of the night, and pulled up a couple nice big fish, laid them on the rock, set it up with their number and their tape, took a picture, sent it in, bam, they're in first place. So and like I said, even though you might not beat that 41-inch fish, just because you entered into that Surf Master Prize category, you're in for the drawing for a good load of prizes.
Yeah.
So hopefully that entices people to join this year, and not be turned off by the the new regulation.
I look at it this way: you're going to go fishing, right? You're spending way more than $30 just on random miscellaneous stuff.
Exactly.
I fish with people that buy live. Myself, I'll get live bait that I know I probably won't use, and I just release it at the end of the day.
Right.
I always get the full whatever size of mud minnows when I'm fluke fishing, and I may use a quarter of them. There have been days where I've used none. I just let them go.
Yeah.
So right there is $15.
Yep.
May as well. Why not throw $30 at it, and it just keeps going and going. So every time you can hit the water,
Exactly.
LBI.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the shot, you got the chance. I love that kind of tournament. Luke is saying, wish he didn't live 3 hours away or he'd be in the tournament. I'm 2.5 hours away. And I might get to LBI maybe once, twice. I might not even get there, but I might sign up anyway, because if I am, I'd love to have the opportunity. I've caught fish that would have beat tournaments that I didn't enter just because it wasn't convenient. I got there, I was like, oh, I should have, I totally forgot. And I go and hit the water. There was one, I caught a huge sea bass. And my dad, this was years ago, my dad said, did you enter? And I said, no, I totally forgot to enter on the way down last night. He's like, they probably would have won. And sure enough, I would have crushed the number. It wasn't like, world record or anything, but it was the biggest one that would have been entered in the tournament. And I didn't do it.
Yeah. So, and even if, what's his name that he says lives a couple hours away?
Luke. Yep.
Luke, even though you live that far away, if you make a plan to come down here for a good weekend or even a good day or two, do some heavy fishing just for the sake of the adventure of coming down here and getting in on all the fish that's being caught down here. Once you hit the island, stop at Fisherman's Headquarters, Surf City Bait and Tackle, Jingles Bait and Tackle. Those three are the three premier shops here where you do the signups for the Derby. And like Rich said, $30. You're going to drop more than that on bait and all that stuff. And, all these shops have live baits. You can get live eels. You got fresh bunker, you got clam, anything you can imagine for baits. And if you're throwing plugs, they're all fully stocked with anything you might ever need. Every shop has technicians that work on rods, reels. So yeah, make a date. Come down here. It runs till December 10th. Join the Derby and get out there, and maybe you'll drive home with another extra $100 in your pocket, for sure.
Can you sign up online?
No, that's the thing we discussed this year, and it kind of got shot down because we were kind of there's a lot to it as far as giving out numbers and all that stuff. So we had a hard time working it all out and getting it all figured out as to how we wanted to do it, how we would all agree as to how it should be done. But it is something that we are going to work on over the winter, and it is going to be an online sign up next year for sure.
That's great.
But yeah, either way, you have to come to the island to fish anyway.
Yeah, so, you're going to pass one of the shops.
Yeah, you're going to pass Fish Heads as you drive on. If you go north, you're going to hit Surf City Bait. If you go south, you're going to hit Jingles, and you're going to come to the island anyway. So to fish the Derby. So that's stop there and sign up as you come onto the island.
Yeah, and they're great local shops too. I mean, they have everything that you need. You're going to stop there anyway, especially if you're out of town. If you're from out of town, you're going to stop in and get something.
Of course,
so you may as well sign up.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I'm going to have to. Now I have to make a trip. I'm probably going to have to do it during the week though.
Yeah,
my weekends seem to be getting filled up really quick.
Hey, it's not as crowded here. It's not as crowded here during the week. I do most of my fishing during the week here. Sometimes we get some real beautiful weather weekends, and I just don't even bother going out.
Yeah.
Because of that, unless it's one of those days that I just got to get out there. I mean, we got 18 miles of beach here. I drive on with my truck, and I'll drive from Harvey Cedars all the way down to Ship Bottom, or I'll just run all the way south from Holgate to Beach Haven. The only thing is you have to have a beach buggy pass to get on the beaches down here. And it's not just one pass for the whole island. We got Long Beach Township, which is a township that represents a bunch of towns down here. It's 6 or 8 towns. There's a lot of towns on this island, little 1 mile towns and stuff. And then you got Surf City. You have to have a special pass, their pass for that. You have Ship Bottom. You need a pass for that. Harvey Cedars pass for that. Most of the passes are $25, a couple more $50. It's a yearly pass or a seasonal pass. But now let me think. You'd have to look at our website. It's either Ship Bottom or a Long Beach Township that only charges like $25 for a pass for the Derby. So there's always a way to get on here and get your truck out on the beach. And even if you don't drive on the beach, every single block on this island has an access to the beach. The beaches aren't super wide. You park on the street right there, right up by the beach. Walk up on the ramp, scope out the water, see where the holes are, see where the rips are, realize, hey, maybe I should just park a block down and go on there. There's plenty of access to get on the beaches down here. And I tell you, the fishing has been really good this season. We have a lot of weigh-ins. We have bass, we have bluefish, ton of tog. If you guys are into tog fishing, our jetty is holding thousands of tog, literally thousands of tog. We got guys that go out there for 4 or 5 hours. And what'd you catch? Oh, I had 150 tog today, probably 12 keeper throwbacks, and I took home a 20-inch bass. Blackfish. Yeah. So it's sick out there, brother. Those rocks hold a lot of tog, and if you're not doing good on the beach, and you want to just like spend a couple hours catching fish, get your tog set up and go out there, man. It's almost guaranteed you're going to be catching tog out there, it's just really good fishing down here, and we're real happy with it, man.
So I'll tell you what my plan is. I'm going to call you up, and I'm going to see when you're going. I'm going to just jump in your truck with you and cruise the beach with you for the day.
You got it.
And we'll end up just getting tog for dinner at the end, and then we'll meet back somewhere. And I'll tell you what, you got to get Tommy.
I was going to actually offer that to you privately, but only Rich, none of you people.
Well, we fished together before.
I used to be the guy who went out at night and set up a little camp for myself, and brought my bunker, brought my clam, and I'd set up a couple rods and do bait fishing and stay in one spot or maybe move to another. But for the past few years, I've been really getting into plugging for bass, and I'm pretty mobile. It's great to have the truck. And, like I said, I'll just work different holes for hours, move my way down the beach, move my way up the beach. You can see everything. I got my binoculars on me. I see birds working. I throw my rod and pack in the truck and jump in the truck and rip down there. But speed limit's only 50 miles per hour, so I don't go any faster than that.
Right.
So I'll rip down there if I see anything happening and go, try that out. But that's what I've been doing lately is just cruising the beach and trying different holes. And when you're moving around like that, you'll find something. It's always something happening.
Yeah, well, that's the way to fish the run. I mean, they're not staging for real long periods of time. They're following the bait. So if the bait's moving, and you can move, it's great to have those beach passes to go chasing them. But let's talk about how has the fishing been for you? I know it's been good. I've seen some pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, and before we get into that, when I come down, you got to get Tommy to go too. I need to meet him in person.
Tommy's the man, brother.
Yeah, so Mr. Venom needs to go too. I need to meet him in person.
Tommy Venom. Look him up on Instagram. He's on Facebook. He basically grew up down here over by the Great Bay, and we call him Sodbank Tommy. Man, he knows where the fish are. He knows how to read the water. He sees some deep water. He sees some rips, and he's very experienced, especially with throwing plugs and all that. He just has the knack to understand what kind of baits they're on, what kind of fish, what kind of lures to throw, which different sizes that they're going to be hitting, and he's pretty spot on with that stuff, man. I'm glad I hooked up with this guy because I'm like I said, it's been a few years that I just started stepping my foot into throwing lures, and I'm really learning a lot, and especially being with him, it really helps me know how to pick what plug out of my bag at the time, because he's got a lot of experience, and the kids, I keep calling him kid, he's 40 years old. But we have a great time. Him and I, we go out a lot together, and sometimes we venture off the island, don't tell anybody, but it would be the three of us for sure, Rich. We get out there and really kill it.
All right, we'll have to plan something. So there was a question in here from Luke. What's your favorite plug? So what have you been using right now? Let's leave the bait out of it. We'll talk about that at the end.
Right.
What plugs and what's been working for you right now for the bass?
I tell you, depending on where I'm at, it's top water. Top water plugs have been working
all day.
Last Wednesday we were up in a northern area, and bass were coming in, feeding on peanut bunker. and you would just throw to the outskirts of the pods, top water plugs, pencil poppers, even bottles. They've been working really well. Down in the bay, early morning, late afternoon, sod banks, the 4-inch poppers. Top water has been working, man. You want to bring bucktails with you. That kind of worked also when we were going at the pods of peanut bunker.
Mm-hmm.
You throw a different color or a different shape, other than that you don't want to match that peanut bunker,
right?
Because it gets lost. You want something to catch their eye. Even if it's a swimmer. I mean, I threw SP minnow, white SP minnow alongside a pot of peanut bunker that was getting destroyed by bass. And every cast, this was last year down in Beach Haven. Every cast I dropped that thing in, I was getting hit and pulling in 35-inch bass with that thing. You got to throw something that's just going to catch their eye a little bit different.
Right.
Whether it's on the top, whether it's midway down the water column, or even a bucktail, something bright like a chartreuse or a yellow, even a red. Just throw it around the edges and let it drop down and pop it out. Because they're all looking for that small bait. They're looking for the peanut bunker to break away. Bass won't run into a bait ball. They kind of hover around the outside, and all the little easy ones that kind of make their way, kind of float, get separated from the bait pod. That's what they're hitting.
Yeah.
So if you give them something that'll catch their eye, their instinct is going to take in. They're not going to be like, well, that's not a peanut bunker. No, they're just going to bam. There's something that's moving. They're going to hit that. But when there's not peanut bunkers around, we were blind casting top water plugs into some deep water, and they were hitting those suckers, man. I love the top water plugs.
Yeah. I think it's interesting what you said. I mean, the one thing that's really important is you have to stand out. I mean, you look at these bunker schools, and some of them are miles long, and they're keyed in on that size, that color, that action.
Yep.
And you have to do something to stand out. So go smaller, go bigger. I typically go bigger because we all know that a 15-inch bass is still going to bite an 8-inch popper.
Oh yeah.
They don't care. So, once
surprised.
once they're in that frenzy, they're like bluefish. They'll just go, and they'll go and try to inhale everything. And one thing I'll mention is, if you're not from shore, the whole theme that you said, fish around the edges, 100% agree with you, but you can also fish under the schools. And the way that you do that is cast over the school and let your line settle down underneath, and just do snap jigging underneath, because they will also cruise underneath. Unless you have, you can tell from your fish finder, if you're on a boat or a kayak, you can tell if the bait's going all the way to the bottom, they're not under it, but you can go straight through the middle. If you're, let's say, in 40 feet of water and you see maybe the first 15 feet is bunker, you can be sure that there's bluefish or there's striped bass that are going to be underneath there, just kind of mopping up everything that's been destroyed above it. So something to keep in mind. So change it up. Make sure that your bait stands out, whether by color or size. I prefer size and action. And if you find yourself in that situation where you are absolutely totally surrounded by the bunker and they're packed and you can't really get to the edges, which does happen from time to time. It happens on the beaches a lot, unless you want to cast really far. Sometimes they will run right up. You can throw it right into the middle, but then make sure your action is enough to scatter the bait. So what happens is, all this bait is thick. Your bait lands in there. Don't just work it normally. Give it a hard jerk. Give it a hard whatever, just to get some more action on there, because it'll scatter the bait. And what that does is it leaves this little open circle in the middle, and any bass that's in there will see just your bait sitting there all alone, a bigger size than what's around, and it becomes the target. So, and you can often get a bite that way. That is not the preferred way to do it, though. It's just if you have to.
Yeah.
If you have to,
you're right.
Can do that.
Because bass are looking to target single baits. They're not looking to go at a whole thing and bust it up. They're too lazy for that. They're kind of, they're looking for the easy bait, easy food, easy meal.
Yeah. So for the top waters, which are the ones that you're specifically using right now? Tommy mentioned he's using the Savage Gear pencil poppers. I typically like to use Spook Juniors and Spooks, the full size Spook.
Yeah.
I do prefer the juniors most of the time because it's typically a different size than the adult bunker that I'm normally around in a kayak. Um, but what are the specific pencil poppers, or not just pencil poppers, the specific top waters that you're using?
Oh, I like the Tsunami talking popper very much.
Yeah,
I like the way it throws. It's got little weights in it, and it throws like a football. I mean, I've thrown talking poppers into 12-mile-per-hour winds right in my face, and they still go 60, 80 yards.
yeah,
And I love the Savage Gear. Savage Gear, they have the best hooks I've ever seen on any lure. Those things are meat hooks, man. And you got to make sure with any plug, you got to set that damn hook. Even though the bass might have it in its mouth, it doesn't necessarily mean that hook is set yet.
right.
Don't just be like, oh, they got it, and then start reeling in. Oh, how come I lost the fish? You got to set that hook, man. Especially with those Savage Gears. Like I said, they got heavy hooks on them.
Yeah,
And you got to really pull hard a couple times, man, and just really set those hooks when they got that in their mouth. That 50-pounder I had last week, I set that a few times because I had lost a couple. And I made sure that was set. And by the time I had that thing beached, it had 2 trebles set in it. They had 2 hooks in its mouth, 2 hooks in its chin. I had 4 hooks in that sucker. That thing wasn't getting away,
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's very important when you're plugging. When it hits, make sure that fish has it in its mouth and set that damn hook hard, brother. Because that's the only way you're going to keep that fish on.
There's a lot of people, you hear it a lot. Well, it just slapped at it. It didn't take it. Why can't I hook up on top water? A lot of people forget that the hooks on those trebles, especially if you have the trebles, they do not have a deep throat on them. They're very short shank hooks, and they're on a ring typically, so they're swinging. So you have to set it enough to line it up, and then set it enough to slam into the bone, right? And you can't just do the lazy just lift and set. That's not going to do it. You got to lift it, almost like the guys do on tuna. You need to set the hook and then set it 2 or 3 more times, because you need to drive that in, because it's not going to get to the point where it's really deeply hooked in most cases, unless you really slam it. Yeah, I mean, it all comes back to you. You have to overcome the swivel on that, and you have to get that all the way buried, or else you're done.
Yeah, even after my initial hook set, and I start cranking it in, I'll give it a couple more good yanks. Make sure that sucker's in there. When I start doing that, Tommy looks over at me, he goes, "Punch that fish, Dave, and teach him who's boss." That's how you got to do it, man. You don't want that thing to get away.
You got to cross its eyes. And anyone who watches my videos, especially the striped bass ones, will see me set multiple times, every single time. And it's almost like I don't believe it's hooked, especially if I set it and it's coming towards me. I never trust a set when it's coming towards me. Yeah. I tend to trust it a little bit more when I set it hard and the weight stays. But if it starts coming towards me, to me, I've lost some torque on that. I've lost a little bit of power. So I just go with the multiple set. And look, people may look at you weird, but you're going to be landing more fish if you do that. Guaranteed. Yeah, you're definitely going to. And don't do the little sissy, little lift the rod, and no, don't let the tip set it. You got to set it all the way through the backbone of that rod, all the way down to your hands.
Punish that fish. Show him who's boss.
Flex that rod as far as you can on that thing. As long as you have your drag set right, you're going to be good. You're going to get Tommy? It in there.
Punish that fish.
Exactly. I love it. All right, so those are the top waters. Now let's talk. We only have a few minutes left. Let's talk about the bait fishing, because when it comes down to it, most of the biggest fish that have been caught that I have seen so far this season, and really, let's be honest, it might just be because most people use natural baits, but they've come on baits. So what are you looking at right now? If you're going to go out there with some bait and start tossing that out, what are you going to be using when you hit the beach to start with?
I mean, off the beaches, everybody wants to get fresh bunker, and I like cutting big chunks of bunker, throwing them on 8.0, 9.0 hooks. But honestly, you don't need big chunks to catch big fish. Right. When they're in the surf, they are grabbing every little thing that they can, because that's why they're in the surf. There's no bunker pods out there, or they haven't found anything yet. So let me cut into the beach and see what the waves are churning up. Every fish I've pulled off the beach, whether it's a 40-pounder or a little 2-pound fluke, full of sand fleas, full of calico crabs. So they're grabbing all that little stuff. You can take chunks of bunker, 1-2-inch chunks of bunker, put them on 4-0 circle hooks and throw them out there on a high-low rig. You're going to catch big fish with those things. I generally bring 2 rods out to the beach when I'm bait fishing, mostly with bunker, a lot of times with clam as well. It's not big baits, big fish. It's the fact that you have the baits out there. But if you are going to use big baits, especially with circle hooks, don't load up the throat of that hook with the bait. You got to have the size hook according to the size piece of bait that you're using. If you're just going to cut an 1.5 inch or a 2-inch section of bunker and throw that on a hook and toss it out there, get the big hooks, get the 8-0s, the 9-0s, even the 10-0s if you can find them. The bigger the hook, the better. You want that gap to be open, and you want that gap to be there, and you want enough hook so that gets onto the fish's mouth, onto the fish's jaw, and sets. You don't have to set circle hooks. You just put the tension on, leave your rod low, keep the tension on, and start reeling it in. As that hook comes out of the fish's mouth, it's gonna grab the jaw, it's gonna grab the lip, guaranteed. I started using circle hooks about 4 years ago, just for the sake of the fact that I got my rods in my holders, and sometimes I lost a couple fish because I wasn't there real quick to set the hook. It really upped my game. I caught a lot more fish just using circle hooks. Please use a circle hook that's big enough. Now, because the reason why I use 2 rods is because the one rod I throw chunks and the other rod I throw bunker head. When I use bunker head, I usually leave a couple inches of meat off the back of the head, cut it down at an angle, leave some of the guts there. You got to have plenty of stuff to attract that fish to take that head. And I just throw the hook through the lower jaw, up through the nose, up through the top, and that's when you need the big 10-0 circle hooks for that, the big 9-0s, 10-0s.
Right.
And I found when I'm fishing with bunkerhead, sometimes it's a real big head. So if I go through the chin and the nose, that's too much meat in the throat of the hook, and it's not exposing enough hook. So then I'll just throw it through the upper jaw, through the nose. Yes. And what I found, what happens is, especially if you have some current running around, the mouth opens up and kind of acts like a little pouch and starts pushing that head around and starts spinning it around. So if I have those bunker heads that are that big, I'll just cut the jaw right off. Yeah. And then just run the hook right through the nose up, and fish that way. Smaller bunker, I just cut them right in half and use the whole front section of the fish hooked through the head. And a lot of times when I was out there, I mostly caught fish with the bunker head. So I always have, like I said, a rod with bunker head, a rod with chunk, depending on what size chunk I use is the size hook that I'll put on. Fishing with clam, it's the same thing. Depending on how much clam you're going to put on that hook. If you're going to put the whole clam on with all the guts and everything like that, get that big hook. But with clam, a lot of soft, mushy stuff on with the clam. I always put that on first, and I put the tongue on afterwards. You want that clam to be up on the shaft and have that hook exposed. And the way you keep that set like that is with clam string. You got to wrap the clam string around, you got to keep that clam up on the shaft of the hook. And the way to do that is wrap the clam string around the leader, just above the eyelet of the hook, and then around the clam a little bit, and then down underneath the clam on the shaft above the throat of the hook. Do a couple spins there, and then wrap it over the clam, get some of that mushy stuff in those strings and get it all, secured. And then the last few turns, just go back above that hook, above the eyelet on the leader, and spin it around, get it all set. So that way, all that major part of the wrap is above the hook, and it's not going to allow that meat to slide down and fill up the throat of that hook. That way, you got your clam all wrapped up onto the shaft of the hook, and you got that circle hook just basically sticking out on its own, just waiting to grab the jaw of that fish when it grabs that bait. And don't be afraid to use salted clam. If you call a shop and do you have any fresh clam? No, we have salted. Use salted clam. That's all I use, and that's all I catch with. There's nothing wrong with using fresh bait. Of course, it's probably the best. But I've caught many fish with salted clam. So don't walk away from a bait shop just because they don't have fresh clam. If they have salted clam, grab that. The stuff works, man.
Yeah, I agree. I've used tons of salted clam. I'll use either. You know, I think the salted actually is a little bit easier because it's easier to freeze afterwards.
Yeah, because it doesn't freeze solid. Now,
Right,
I throw it right in the freezer. It stays nice and cold, and it's not frozen solid. It just
right.
stays. It just stays fresher, or just stays good. I've got salted clam in my freezer from last year that I pulled out the other day, and I was using it, and it works fine.
Yeah.
Salted clams, it stays on the hook better too.
Yes.
It's a little more solid, and like I said, leave all the guts and all the string and everything on there. However many times you got to poke through it onto that hook, get all that stuff on there, wrap it all with string. Well, the mushier the better. The most garbage that you got on there really attracts that fish. And use it all.
Yeah, and do that also. Use that clam string even if you're fishing from a boat. If you have clam, it just keeps it on so much easier. And go with the bigger hooks is what I recommend. I'm also going to say this: if you're bait fishing, don't just throw it out there and let it sit and stick it in a rod holder and wait. Now, it's okay if you're fishing multiple lines, one of them's going to have to do that. But I would always keep, in your case, with the example that you gave, fishing the noggin or the head and then fishing the rest. Hold the noggin rod in your hand, because one thing that also helps with circle hooks is to get the tension onto that quickly.
Yep.
Especially if you have the softer baits that are going to come off. They will, when a striped bass eats, it inhales the entire thing. It's not like a bluefish that's chomping at something. It's just sucking the entire bait in, and it's going straight down the gullet. So it's going down quick, and it can clean off that hook and spit that hook.
Yeah.
If you don't put that tension. So if it picks it up and comes towards you, you want to know that. You want to start reeling faster than it's coming towards you, so that you can get the tension on there. If you don't get the tension on there, you're going to lose the fish. And I think that's a big reason why, Dave, people complain that they're missing a lot of fish on circle hooks. It's because the hook isn't magic, right? It does something. It has a mechanical purpose to it. And in order for that to work, you have to run it back through its mouth, and then it'll catch that corner. And if you're not doing that, it's just going to spit it straight out. It's not going to catch on anything.
Yeah, and if you think, oh, I'll pull it, I'll set it, you're going to pull that hook right out of the fish's mouth.
Right.
You have to just leave tension on it and allow it to work that way. And if you're going to leave your rod in a holder, loosen up your drag or get a bait runner. Open up, click on the bait runner. A lot of guys lose their rods because they left the drag set tight. A big fish goes on, bends the rod down, loosens up the sand spike. Sand spike goes flat and the rod's gone. Right. Loosen up your drag, or use the bait runner. Always remember when you're loosening up your drag, you have it where it's locked. I always lock my drag when I cast, and then when I put it in the rod holder, I turn it, test it. All right, that's the tension that I want when I'm when I'm fighting my fish. All right, so now it's time for me to loosen it up, the drag, so the fish can take the bait and run, and then it gives me time to get up to the rod without the rod flying in. When I do that, I always count 1, test, 2, test. All right, that's loosen up. I just did it 2 times. Now I know when I grab that rod in a panic, 2 times, 1, 2, that's at the fighting. If you don't know where it's at and you start turning, you could be tightening up and your line snaps. Always keep in mind how many turns it takes to get down to the fighting drag setting that you want. And you'll always, be good that you're not going to end up snapping your line and tightening it too much. That's very important. Very, very important.
It's a good tip. Good tip. I've had some issues with that where I always forget how much I loosen. Yeah. So there's a lot of times where I end up palming the thing. But the one thing I wanted to mention is you don't set the hook on a circle hook.
Nope.
I do after it's set. For some reason, after I've been reeling the fish for a good minute and I know it's hooked up, for some reason I still try to set it. I can't stop
there's
it.
Nothing wrong with just giving it some good test tightenings.
Once it's in
there, you might end up setting the barb a little bit better.
Right.
But as long as you keep tension on it, it's almost like fishing with a barbless hook. You have to keep tension on it. As soon as you loosen it up, that's going to be gone. And that's how you have to think when you're fishing with circle hooks. For the most part, once the circle hook is set, it's most likely going to stay in. Yeah. But don't get like, where you release some tension, always keep tension on, and that's important. And I don't blame you, Rich. I do the same thing. I always give it a little, not that I'm really giving it a set, but I'm always testing it. I'm always, all right, it's in. It's like, it's on, right? Yeah, it's on, right? I got you.
Yeah, just a few
So
jabs in the face. Yeah, just to make sure. The key is just don't do that until it's hooked.
Exactly. That's not your initial. That's not your initial thing that you do when you grab the rod out of the holder. If you have it in your hand, you don't do that. You just get your tension on and bring your rod down and kind of off to the side, and not over the top, just off to the side.
Yeah.
And that gets official turn. That'll keep the line down and over and out. And that's just the way to do it. And just keep that tension on. And as that fish fights, that's going to set that hook even better.
Yeah, I think people just have to think about the mechanics behind it. It's the way that the hook is shaped is what's going to hook the fish, and it's not you driving it home. It's the action of it slowly sliding back out of its mouth that's going to turn the hook, and it's shaped in the proper way that it will the barb that comes in, the tip of that hook is just going to catch something, and as it catches and pulls, that's what pulls it around.
Yep.
And once that happens, it's hooked. But if you set the hook, it's just going to pull it straight out. It hasn't had time to grab onto anything yet, so it's just going to fly right back out of its mouth, and you're probably going to lose your bait and blame the circle hook. But it's not the circle hook most times. It's going to be you. So we've all been there. We've all done it. We are at our 45 minutes. Dave, I really appreciate it. You want to give the 3 tackle shops again in LBI that people can stop by to sign up for the Derby?
Yeah, Fisherman's Headquarters, Surf City Bait and Tackle, and Jingles Bait and Tackle. Go to lbisfc.com to learn more about the tournament and about the Derby and everything about all the rules and all the prize structures that we have. And there's a Facebook page, Long Beach Island Surf Fishing Classic, that you can also go to. And there are live results posted on the Facebook page and always on the website. There's a section if you want to see who caught what when. It's all the live results are there constantly.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you, Dave, for coming on. I'm going to be giving you a call and we'll coordinate with Tommy and we'll get out there on the water sometime coming up soon. And as I come down for that, I'll register. May as well.
Hey, man.
You always got a shot.
If it's the 3 of us fishing together, those fish don't stand a chance.
Well, they might stand a chance against me, but I've seen you guys. So everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. Again, it is great to be back. Love you all for coming in and supporting us again as we come back after this year. Remember, tune in next Monday night. We're going to have Captain Scotty Sevens on, and God only knows what we're going to talk about, but it's most likely going to be striped bass. He's been on the big ones, just like you saw in the thumbnail that Dave had, upwards to 50 pounds, 40 to 50 plus inch fish. So until then, guys, everyone get out there, get on the water, and get some tight lines.